Format for 2 more years of OOTP. Can we win the World Series with our beloved Oakland Athletics? Our salaries look like this. The Pitzer deal is an albatross, the Greer deal is ramping up the big bucks, and Brendan Tyndall is a trade candidate coming off a career season, 1 year shy of free agency. The goal here is to get our 2037 salary around $100 million. Heck of a player though, that Brendan Tyndall. We'll sure miss him. Third base will be an area of focus with Liddell Hungo a likely non-tender candidate. So here's your trade. Tyndall leaves, but so does Robbie Spector, who had a breakout platform year. They're heading across the bay, and in return we're going to gamble on young stud pitcher Eric Lewitt to return from elbow surgery strong, and also pick up a strong stopper in Chris Nash. To free up more salary, we're trading another starter, Isdel Medina, only 1 more year until that potential opt-out. Prospect Alejandro Imbriz also goes. He's ranked in the top 100, but doesn't look amazing to me. We'll be getting back Johnny Miller from the White Sox. He can replace Tyndall in right field, but I think he might play third base for us in the long term. Then we add some young relief arms in Levet, Brown, and Bellinger. Anyone here who has a 0 next to their name is getting non-tendered. And here's how we'll set up the development lab. Pitcher-centric. 2036 award winners are out. Brady Harris won NL MVP, Chester Girton won AL MVP again, Tripp Jennings won NL Cy Young, Jamie Murphy won AL Cy Young. Adam Wainwright and Bryce Harper are inducted to the Hall of Fame. I spread the wealth around with our international free agent class this winter. Here's a glance at the top guys signed in January. And we have outstanding dev lab success with Eric Finch's control, he's one of our better prospects, as well as the recently acquired reliever Jeff Bellinger's movement. Third trade of the offseason is about flexibility. I'm moving out of options outfielder Jeff Boudreau, disappointing young reliever Jaheim Cephas, and unimpressive first-rounder Bobby Baker to the rebuilding Red Sox for 2 outfielders with options in Melton and Vargas, as well as 2 more reliever options in Lewis and Mariduena. In spring training, we get the news that our best reliever, Danny Baudanza, needs Tommy John and will miss the season. Another bullpen lefty in Braden Jennings will miss the season as well. So we'll try to upgrade the bullpen once more with our final trade. The rebuilding Phillies will take starting pitching prospect Tyrese Stance for 1 year of closer Min-Hui Yu, who pitched for us a couple seasons ago. Our opening day lineups look like this, with Miller playing right field, and Eric Finch breaks camp in the rotation, with Tyler Pitzer as the number 5 until Lewitt recovers from his injury. Here's where our top prospects will kick off 2037. The season predictions have us pegged at 85 wins. Here's the National League. On opening day, we win 7-4, Mike Drake gets the win, and Chris Nash gets the save. And in our second game, we combine for a 1-hitter. In April, Lewitt is ready for his rehab assignment. But we've had a poor start to the season. We're 12-20 with a poor bullpen ERA despite great team FIP, and the bats just ain't battin'. Galindo, Evans, Kameyer, and DeBona are doing much worse than last season when we won 99 games. Prince Ardley's hitting like an MVP candidate, though. The newly acquired Johnny Miller has a 2 to 3 week injury. I'll put our 4th outfielder Jesus Peralez in left field and call up Jonathan Melton to be the new 4th outfielder. After 3 weeks rehabbing in AAA, we're going to bring Lewitt to the majors and into the rotation. Eric Finch, the rookie, meanwhile, has been awesome. A nagging Jesus Peralez injury means we'll have to call up Juan Vargas, the other Red Sox outfielder we traded for, to form a temporary platoon. Johnny Miller returns in late May, and we get back to 500 on May 26th. June prospect check-in, Daniel Ramos is doing well in Arizona, and last year's first-rounder Dan Wellens looks like one to watch as he's promoted to AA. By mid-June, we're above 500, but 10.5 off the first-place Astros. Might be more of a wild card type year. Or maybe no playoffs at all. We lose 5 in a row. It's July, our bats are still bad, and Lewitt has lost his prototypical starter stamina. Our best full-time hitters so far are Johnny Miller, Prince Ardley, and Rancer Walls. And our division rivals are putting up a 20-piece on us. We'll be picking 31st in the draft. First pick will be a high school hitter, Franderly Harless, balanced approach with a cannon arm in right. Second rounder is collegiate infielder Julio Ibarra. A lot of power, but a lot of swing and miss. Third rounder is high school shortstop Danny Jackson. Our lone all-star is our closer, Chris Nash. Here's the National League. At the break, our top hitter by WAR is scrappy second baseman Rancer Walls, and our top pitcher by WAR is Mike Drake, with Butch Martin and Minhui Yu beasting as well. Club legend Tyler Pitzer is finally willing to waive his no-trade clause, so we'll be dumping his bad contract. Jim Evans, arguably our best player last year, is playing like a non-tender candidate. Just before the trade deadline, our closer Chris Nash's season is over. So we'll kick off with an unpopular trade. The Dodgers gave me no choice. They want Sincere Cabbage Stalk alongside Yu's expiring deal, and for 2 controllable relievers in Gilliam and Garrow, I oblige. Now here's the big one. It's not just Tyler Pitzer, but also the expiring Chad Staley, the regressing catcher Juan Galindo, and the heavily regressing Jim Evans to the Cubs. In return, we'll take right fielder Dermot Hughes, who has performed well in the big leagues, and a new starting catcher in Robbie Dahlhover. We'll retain 50% of the Pitzer deal. Oh yeah, and they want Levet as well. And finally, it's time to bail on Eric Lewitt because of the lower stamina upon return. He and Lewis go to Minnesota for a real starter in Luis Aquino, as well as bullpen help and a prospect. Here's how we'll line up post-deadline. Miller moves to third base with Hughes now in right. Gillison, who we just traded for, immediately tears his UCL. And Dahlhover, who we also just traded for, fractures his thumb. By the end of August, we're on a 7-game winning streak and in the wildcard race. And with roster expansion in effect, we'll let former 7th rounder Adrian Clark make his debut, as well as bring pitcher Danny Mills back up. Rookie Ben Edmondson joined the rotation post-deadline and has done quite well. Chris Greer's season ends with a high ankle sprain in mid-September. With 1 game left, we need both to win and the Royals to lose, and neither of those things happen. We miss the playoffs with an 84-78 record. Here are your final season stats. Big year for Rancer Walls, who hit .305 and stole 33 bases, and big years for this rotation in general. Good to see homegrowns like Drake, Finch, and Edmondson in particular. The Mets win the World Series in 7 over the Angels. That's back-to-back for them. Now for the offseason. We need a bat. It's going to take Victorian Roussel, who went from a 3.5-win player to below replacement level, as well as 4 other pieces, including reliever prospect Dave Dessa. In return, the Cubs give us Ramiro Flores, coming off 37 home runs and an OPS over 900. Then we'll trade a couple prospects to the rebuilding Dodgers for Edgar Penanuri to rebuild our outfield depth. Prince Ardley is a surprise non-tender. Nobody wants to trade for him. Braden Jennings is a not as surprising non-tender. Awards. Aiden Miller wins NL MVP. Chester Girton wins AL MVP again. Chill out, dude. Trip Jennings wins NL Cy Young again. Joe Height wins in the AL as the Yankees go 1-2. The salary situation for 2038 is where it needs to be, around $100 million. We'll go ahead and extend Eric Finch, buying out a couple free agency years. I actually will make a selection in the Rule 5 draft. This reliever, Jim Izquierdo. And then I find this guy in free agency, 2nd overall KBO draft pick released by the NC Dinos after he got injured, 5-star potential, and I can somehow just offer him a minor league contract. Yeah, sure, here's $10,000 if you want it. Aaron Judge reaches the Hall of Fame with over 500 career home runs. 2 big signings make up our January 15th class, a shortstop named Jesus Ontiveros for $3.5 million, and a catcher named Alvaro Navarro for $2.2 million. But an unofficial member of the class is Dong-Chan Kim, who somehow signed our minor league deal. I guess none of the other big league teams noticed. I want a swingman, and Danny Nagel fits the bill. We'll send the Rule 5 Izquierdo and a couple AAA prospects to make it happen. Last day of spring training, and Mike Drake is injured. While we wait on that, here's how we'll line up. Jesus Perales takes over in center for the departed Roussel. If Mike Drake is okay, these will be the pitchers on the opening day roster. But of course, he's not. Our worst fears confirmed, a torn rotator cuff that basically ends his season and may have long-lasting effects on the rest of his career. This accelerates the timeline of Dan Wellens, who will begin the year in AAA. We get shut out on opening day, only collecting 4 hits. On May 1st, we're 15-12 and in first place despite a negative run differential. The bats are starting slow again. In fact, we roar to a 24-12 start, including an 11-game win streak. That's courtesy of our lineup. Jesus Perales is looking strong in his first season as an everyday player. Steve DeBona has a nagging injury, so we'll put him on the injured list for now. We'll rearrange the infield and let Adrian Clark get a run. He has 4 home runs through his first 18 games. Rancer Walls has a sprained ankle, further pushing our infield depth. Reliever Mike Garrow needs Tommy John as we roll into late May. In early June, we promote former first-rounder Rayto Hill to AAA, and it's time for another first-rounder in Dan Wellens to come join the big league club. I wonder if we'll see a fully drafted rotation someday. Ian Kammeyer suffers a 4-week injury, so the newly acquired Penanuri will get a run against righties and form a platoon with attempted lefty masher Juan Vargas. Steve DeBona is hurt again, so that's 3 starters on the injured list. Things are getting a little dicey around here. Oh, and Johnny Miller the very next day. We'll promote this Luis Maciel guy who I signed to a minor league deal last winter. And the lineup looks like this now. Oh look, Chris Greer is hurt just as Walls and Kammeyer come back. A 5-week injury for him, so many month-long injuries in this lineup. He's been bad too. The fall-off will be studied. That means it's time for Pat Seivert to get a run. Can he impress before the trade deadline? We're 48-42 on draft day, picking 19th. First round, I'm going with high school hurler Nate Adams. Hopefully his high intelligence helps him develop. Second round, another pitcher named Nate, this time college righty Nate Bartosh. Third round, high school hitter Chris Horn, best eye in the draft, very moneyball. At the All-Star break, we're 50-46, tied with the Astros in a weaker division than usual. Only one All-Star again, and it's David Luvano as a reliever, even though he made 11 starts for us as well. Right before the deadline, Eric Finch's season is over due to shoulder inflammation. A real shame, he was crushing it. So Luvano enters the rotation again, but we'll use the trade deadline to add pitching. Johnny Miller has suffered a setback in his recovery. It'll be 3 months before he's back. He was supposed to be back any day now. It's sadly time to dump Chris Greer like we dumped Tyler Pitzer, our save's best hitter at his peak, but he peaked early. Former first-rounder Rayto Hill and 3 others are there to entice the Dodgers to take on the majority of the contract. We retain only 20%. We got Dermot Hughes at the last deadline, and he's leaving us in this one, alongside Danny Long, who deserves another big league opportunity. Jeremy Shia joins us again from the Rays as a back-end starter, but the real prize is Brad Payton, who is a better, younger version of Hughes in right. We still need our Greer replacement, and we'll have to pay with David Morrell to get him. Really bummed to give him up. It's for Milwaukee's Bob Austin, a former NL Rookie of the Year. Our pitching looks like this now. Shia as the 5th starter, Gilliam as the highest leverage reliever. Lineups look like so. We've brought in catcher David Villegas, our 2032 7th rounder, and that's because catcher Robbie Dahlhover is injured as well, joining Drake, Finch, Miller, and Kammeyer on the injured list. In mid-August, our young closer Gilliam joins them with a torn labrum. He's done for the year. Our record is 60-62 as we've slipped in the last couple weeks. The Astros have a 6-game lead on us entering September, but we're right in the mix for the last wildcard spot. Sadly, we'll have to make that push without Steve DeBona for the next couple weeks. Lineups look like this now. Nagel's regular season appears to be over. This is a long list of injured names. Thankfully, Kammeyer comes back in mid-September to hit leadoff. We're 76-69. September 28th, Mike Drake is back, but the AAA season is over and he hasn't pitched in 6 months. What to do? I decide to put him in the bullpen. On October 2nd, we clinched the wild card. We're heading back to the playoffs. Drake's 2 outings weren't particularly encouraging. His stamina has fallen to 35, similar to how Lewitz did. He's too rusty to trust in the playoffs. Dan Wellens, by the way, was excellent. Incredible rookie season for him. Hitting-wise, Villegas impressed in a small sample, while Ramiro Flores was consistent all year. Brad Payton raked for us post-trade deadline. Bob Austin not so much. We'll face the 94-win Orioles in the best-of-3 wildcard series. I'll line us up like this. We lose Game 1. Aquino pitched better than Murphy, but Nash and Nagel struggled in the bullpen. We're now facing elimination. Eric Finch has suffered a serious setback as well. What's with the setbacks? We bounce back in Game 2, scoring 5 runs in the 6th as Ben Edmondson picks up the win. And we win the series in Game 3. Strong start from Dan Wellens. Johnny Miller is ready to come back, and we can use a day-to-day injury to Mike Delfasi as an excuse to use him as an injury replacement. The lineup looks a lot better with Miller's on base and power. We haven't had a third baseman as good as him this entire save. We'll take on the 99-win AL East champ Boston Red Sox in the ALDS, led by their ace Joel Landis and star second baseman Arturo Escobedo. They beat us in Game 1 at Fenway. Landis cruises for Boston as Luvano melts down for Oakland. But we even it up in Game 2. Flores ties the game in the top of the 9th, and Walls drives in 2 in the 10th. Josh Gaynor, excellent in relief. He's moved up the closer depth chart. Red Sox take Game 3. I'm just simming these, not managing them. Most of the scoring came early as Edmondson struggled. We're facing elimination again. We're hoping for a big start from the rookie Wellens in Game 4. And we get it. Another extra inning win as Flores walks it off in the bottom of the 11th. Wellens to Badanza to Gaynor. This series is tied. Butch Martin will start the deciding Game 5 in Fenway. Tie game. Top of the 8th. Bases loaded for Jesus Perales, facing Jaheim Cephas, who he was once traded alongside, and he drills it! That ball is deep. It is gone! Onto the monster. Jesus Perales has broken this game wide open with a grand slam. And so we do win Game 5 behind the Perales grand slam. Ramiro Flores is named Series MVP. Just a great team win and series win. Here are the boys celebrating the last couple outs, a double play induced by Danny Badanza. We'll face the White Sox in the ALCS. They won only 83 games, so it's a battle of wildcard underdogs. The pitching matchups should be epic, strength on strength. We win Game 1 thanks to a frantic comeback, a 2-run Bob Austin single in the 8th, and a walk-off from Ramiro Flores in the 9th. Josh Gaynor locks it down. Game 2, why not do it again? Nagel blows it in the 9th, but Seivert homers to tie it, and DeBono walks it off in the 12th. Josh Gaynor locks it down again. Would you believe it? Another nail-biter in Game 3. Bob Austin homers in the 9th. Great start from Wellens as Badanza picks up the save. No sweep for us, though. The White Sox make it a 3-1 series. Gaynor is human after all. They push the series back to Oakland in Game 5. All the scoring came early in this one. Aquino was pretty miserable. Chris Nash has an injury. That means Mike Drake can join the playoff roster, albeit in a lower leverage role. And we win Game 6 to advance to the World Series. No reverse sweep here. We score 4 runs in the 8th. Jesus Perales is named ALCS MVP. We'll take on the big bad Mets in the World Series. They're seeking a three-peat behind the best pitcher of this save, Tripp Jennings, and the best position player, Brady Harris. Game 1, bottom 4, Kevin Taylor singles up the middle against Butch Martin. That scores 2 to give the Mets a 3-1 lead. Then later in a 5-1 game, David Luvano is facing catcher Josh Doan, and Doan gets the best of him, homering to center. Those were the big moments from Game 1. We lose 9-3 in Queens. Tripp Jennings cruises. Game 2, top of the 7th, catcher Robbie Dahlhover up with 2 on, 1 out, and he strikes out. It'll be up to Rancer Walls, and Walls lines it, but right to third base. Ford Gesso comes to bat for the Mets in the 8th. He hits it to left, and it is just gone. An opposite field go-ahead home run for Gesso. Nagel loads up the bases, and he's still in to face Josh Doan. I wouldn't let that happen if I were managing. And Doan pulls one down the line. The base is clear, and that's the dagger. We were in that one until we quickly weren't. The Mets score 6 runs in the 8th, meltdown for Nagel after a strong Aquino start. Let's take some time to admire Steve DeBona's career playoff stats. 10 homers in only 20 games. Back in Oakland for Game 3, can Brad Payton add a crucial insurance run in the bottom of the 8th? He hits one, and it's gonna be a double to right field. Flores at first is not the fastest, but he's on his horse trying for this one, and the throw is to second as Flores scores to give Oakland a 3-1 lead. Baudanza trying to lock it down now. 2 on, 1 out, and it's a crucial strikeout. Mets are down to their last out. It'll be Anthony Pack Jr. Pack hits one to the right side, but Flores is there. He'll take it himself. It's a 2-1 series now. Shout out to the rookie Villegas for his run-scoring double in the second inning, and my goodness, well and shoved in this one. That is a special line for anybody, much less a rookie. A's are leading by 1 in Game 4, but the Mets have a runner in scoring position, and Holmes pounces on a full count fastball. That is an absolute no-doubter. The Mets take a 6th inning lead. That proves to be the decisive moment as the Mets win this one 7-3. We are facing elimination in Game 5, hoping to push the series back to Queens. Bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, A's down by 2, runner on second. It'll be second baseman Rancer Walls versus Mets closer Hao Z. Could this be the end? Walls hits one up the middle, but it's cut off by Gesso at second. The Mets are World Series champions in 2038. It's a three-peat. So to answer the question, can we win the World Series? The answer is still no. We can play winning baseball, but we haven't won the big one, and that's the real ending of this series. Sorry. It's not all storybook endings, but I hope you enjoyed the ride nonetheless.